Here's your list of charges. You hacked into the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Department of Defense and NASA, amongst other things. Why?
I was in search of suppressed technology, you know, laughingly referred to as UFO technology. I think it's the biggest kept secret in the world because of its comic value. But it's a very important thing. We've got old age pensioners can't pay their fuel bills. We've got countries being invaded to get award oil contracts to the West. And meanwhile, secretive parts of the secret government are sitting on suppressed technology for free energy.
So how did you go about trying to find the stuff that you were looking for in NASA, in the Department of Defense?
Well, I assumed that although it's part of a secret government project, there must be military ties. I'd read 400 expert witness testimonies, ranging from civilian air traffic controllers through military radar operators, all the way up to guys that were in charge of whether or not to launch nuclear missiles. So it's very credible people. All of these people had said that there are UFOs, they are alien. We're using anti-gravity and reverse engineered technology that came from captured UFO craft.
We're using anti-gravity?
Yeah.
Right now? Who's using anti-gravity?
Secret compartmented parts of the government. And I think we're being trickle-fed by the various defence contractors, so that I predict within the next 7 years we will have anti-gravity as a publicly usable phenomena.
Okay, so how did you go about hacking into the computers to find what you were looking for?
Well, unlike the press would have you believe, it wasn't very clever. I searched for blank passwords. I wrote a tiny Perl script, the Perl language, that tied together other people's programs that searched for blank passwords, so you could scan 65,000 machines in just over 8 minutes.
So you went and actually accessed 65,000 machines sitting on, I guess, 65,000 desks in different buildings?
No, because all 65,000 aren't necessarily live yet. You might find typically 5,000 might be live, and out of that 500 might be Windows machines, then 50 might have blank administrator passwords, which is a pretty bad ratio for the world's largest military.
So you're saying that you found computers which had a high-ranking status, administrator status,
yep,
which hadn't had their passwords set, they were still set to default?
Yeah, precisely. And in some cases it was thousands of machines, because they had an image. Rather than install Windows off a CD in every machine, you blat it onto an image, stick the image in all the machines, and every single machine has a blank local administrator password. So.
And you actually eventually took control of one particular machine on a desk somewhere in NASA, is that right?
Well, I mean, I had control of every machine that had a blank administrator password, because the door was open. So.
And what did you use that to do?
I was searching for files and evidence in relation to the UFO question.
Okay. Were you the only hacker to make it in, you know, past the slightly lower than expected lines of defence?
Yeah, exactly. There were no lines of defence. There was a permanent tendency of foreign hackers. You could run a command when you're on the machine that showed connections from all over the world. Check the IP address to see if it was another military base or whatever, and it wasn't. The General Accounting Office in America has again published another damning report saying that federal security is very, very poor.
So let's get this straight. While you were on a machine inside one of these computers in the Department of Defense, say, there were other hackers logged onto that machine as well, from around the world?
Yeah, you run your NetStack command and you see the list, you know, Turkey, Germany, Holland, you know, everywhere.
Are they all being prosecuted?
No, because they weren't caught, I'm assuming. I mean, they could have turned out later on to be someone else that's been caught, but not as far as I know. I think that probably, because the security was so poor, it's probably foreign governments.
How many times did you go back into this computer within NASA and the Department of Defense? Was it a one-time only?
No, I mean, most computers, because I maintained a quiet presence and, you know, wasn't running around causing, you know, abundant damage, as is claimed. I was back on most computers for as long as it took for me to find out if there was any information on there which would be useful to my research.
So how many times do you think you went? Over what kind of period were you hacking into these computers? Was it a one-time only? Was it for the course of a week?
A couple of years.
And you went unnoticed for a couple of years?
Oh yeah, yeah.
What if I was, say, a NASA employee and I was walking past the computer that you were connected to, what would I have seen on the screen? Would there be any clues to anyone that was there?
Absolutely.
That you were there?
Yeah, I was using something a bit like PC Anywhere, called Remotely Anywhere, so I could actually see the desktop of the machine I had control of. And if you were walking past there, you would see the mouse move and me, you know, doing whatever I was doing on that desktop.
Why weren't you spotted then?
I was eventually, and it was at NASA that I was spotted. I even saw the chap's or woman's mouse cursor come down, right-click the local area network icon and choose disconnect, and that was me.
So someone basically took the mouse off you, if you like, and
anyway,
cut the
yeah.
connection.
Yeah, yeah.
Why did it take 2 years before they caught you? Do you think there was no one there at the computer, or did they...
yeah, because I used to be careful about the hours.
So you would log on in the middle of the night, say?
Yeah, you had to always be juggling like different time zones and stuff. And yeah, so you're doing it at night time, so hopefully there's not many people around. But there was one occasion where a network engineer saw me and actually questioned me, and we actually talked to each other via WordPad, which was quite strange. That was very, very strange.
What did he say? What did you say?
Well, he said, "What are you doing?" Which is a bit, you know, shocking. And I told him I was from military computer security, which he fully believed. And we had a little chat, and he tried to impress me with his virus knowledge and going into a DOS box, a console and stuff. And that was quite strange, talking to someone who's in charge of the place where you shouldn't be, and then not realising that you shouldn't have been there.
And I guess that scared you enough to stop you doing it?
No.
Why?
Because I felt like this free energy technology that I was after should be publicly available. I wasn't doing any damage. I was snooping around. I wasn't making their security poorer because the administrator password was already blank, so the door was already open. The only thing I was doing was installing my remote control program, which is commercially off-the-shelf available software, so you know, it shouldn't be a problem either.
Did you find what you were looking for?
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
There's a group called the Disclosure Project. They published a book which had 400 expert witnesses ranging from civilian air traffic controllers through military radar operators right up to the chaps that are responsible as to whether or not to launch nuclear missiles. So some very credible, very relied upon people, all saying that yes, there's UFO technology, there's anti-gravity, there's free energy, and it is extraterrestrial in origin, and we've captured spacecraft and reverse engineered it. And these are, you know, very solid, reliable chaps in charge of launching nuclear missiles. So,
what did you find inside NASA?
One of these people was a NASA photographic expert, and she said that in Building 8 of Johnson Space Center, they regularly airbrushed out images of UFOs from the high-res satellite imagery. And using the same blank password hunting technique, I got down to Building 8, got a few blank passwording machines there, and what she said was there. There was folders called filtered and unfiltered, or processed and raw, or something like that. I got one picture out of the folder, bearing in mind this is a 56K dial-up.
So a very slow internet connection.
Oh crikey, yeah, I mean, you know, dial-up days. A 235 megabyte picture, and if you're talking 5 minutes a megabyte, obviously impossible to download. Also in a NASA proprietary image format, not a GIF or a JPEG or anything. So using the remote control program, I turned the colour down to 4-bit colour, the screen resolution really, really low, and even then this picture was still, you know, juddering and coming onto the screen. But what came onto the screen was amazing. It was a culmination of all my efforts. It was a picture of something that definitely wasn't man-made. It was above the Earth's hemisphere. It was kind of looked like a satellite. It was cigar-shaped. It had geodesic domes above, below, to the left, to the right, and both ends of. And although it was a low-resolution picture, it was very close up. This thing was hanging in space. The Earth's hemisphere was visible below it. And no rivets, no seams, none of the stuff associated with normal man-made manufacturing.
Is it possible this is an artist's impression?
I don't know. No, for me it was it was more than coincidence. I mean, this woman had said, this is what happens in this building, in this space center. I went into that building, that space center, and saw exactly that. And the folders were even called unprocessed and processed, or raw and filtered or something, so.
Do you have a copy of this? It came down to your machine?
No, it came, the graphical remote viewer works frame by frame. It's a Java application. So it's nothing saved on your hard drive, or at least if it is, only, you know, one frame at a time might be.
So did you get the one frame?
Nope.
What happened?
Well, once I was cut off and my picture disappeared, I was just
You were actually cut off at the time you were downloading the picture?
Yeah, I saw the guy's hand move across. And bear in mind, you're not downloading it, you're viewing it remotely. So in a way it is downloading because the picture's coming from there to yours, but you're not downloading it as a named file to your hard drive. You're viewing it through an application.
I mean, If I was to go and look for pictures that you've described, I'd make blooming sure that I could record everything that happened on my machine. Was there a way to do that?
I think there probably was a screenshot function in Remotely Anywhere, which I didn't use. I mean, I'm sitting there bedazzled, you know, thinking, crikey, this really is looking weirder and weirder the more that comes of it. And also, I thought that I was safe there. I didn't think I'd be caught, you know, 3/4 of the way through of looking at the first picture I'd looked at. And also, I was amazed that it was how she said it would be.
So you were cut off while you were looking at this picture. A few months later, you were caught. What happened on that day?
National High-Tech Crime Unit knocks on your door early in the morning. I'd been asleep for about an hour, I think. So I was very groggy.
You weren't up all night hacking, by any chance?
I was, yes. But fortunately for me, they'd been monitoring me for 3 months beforehand and saw that I wasn't doing damage, that I was snooping around. So it was good in a way. Yeah, that was March 2002, and they said, oh, you might get 6 months or so community service. Next thing I know, November 2002, 6 months has turned into 60 years in an American jail.
Why do they think that sentence is suitable for you?
They've written some new cybercrime laws, and when I was following my case and following the changes in legislation and even the minute changes made to the legislation, I'm sure my case heavily affected the new cybercrime laws in America. I think they're peeing their pants. They're incredibly scared that their computer systems are so easy to get into. And so rather than stop the bad practice and increase the security or employ proper IT people instead of training up military personnel, they're trying to scare everyone away from not doing it. So I'm the anti-hacking poster boy, you know.
That's why you think they're trying to impose such a serious sentence. Why are they saying they're imposing such a serious sentence?
They say I've damaged every machine I was on.
Is that possible?
Well, I mean, yeah, you could have done, but it wouldn't have been in my interest. I wanted to maintain a quiet presence. Also, they say that for it to be an extraditable offence, it has to be worth a year in prison. For it to be worth a year in prison, it has to be $5,000 worth of damage. And as if by magic, lo and behold, every machine I'm on is $5,000 worth of damage.
$5,000 worth of damage to each machine?
Yeah.
Is that possible? How much were those machines worth, do you think?
Well, crikey, I mean, in America, PCs are even cheaper than they are over here. I'm sure they probably cost about $500.
But these are military PCs?
Military PCs, but
so there's a good chance that they're not standard.
Well, if they weren't standard, they wouldn't have had blank passwords and been running Windows and connected to the internet.
You acknowledge that what you did was against the law. It was wrong, don't you?
Unauthorized access is against the law and it is wrong.
What do you think is a suitable punishment for someone that did what you did?
Well, firstly, because of what I was looking for, I think I was morally correct, even though I regret it now. I think a free energy technology should be publicly available. I want to be tried in my own country under the Computer Misuse Act, and I want evidence brought forward, or at least want the Americans to have to provide evidence in order to extradite me, because I know there is no evidence of damage. And that is the main brunt of the charges. That's what's gone from 6 months community service to 60 years in a foreign jail.
Do you understand maybe that someone who hacks into such a high level of secure building and such a high level of secure computers, that sounds like a serious offence? You were hacking just after September the 11th, 2001, weren't you?
Well, I was hacking long before and for a while afterwards as well, so you know.
During the immediate aftermath of 9/11?
No, not immediately. It was actually... I think that was around... I had actually stopped for a while towards the end of 2000 and started again after a few months, so I can't even remember if I was doing it at the time, but it's certainly not, you know, during it, because I was with everyone else watching it on television thinking, crikey.
Okay. Do you have any tips to stop hackers like yourself from getting into computers within companies or within homes?
Yeah, first of all, have a password. Don't have blank passwords. I think your first line of defense is stuff that's already part of Windows. So as well as having a good password, in the office environment you should enforce log on, log off hours, so no one can log on before or after office hours. Simple tweak to make in the Windows security. Make sure everyone turns off the machines at night when they go home from the office, or make sure you turn off your router at night if you've got broadband and you go to bed at night. Turn off the remote registry service.
Now let's just talk about that. Can you just talk us through what the remote registry service is and how you turn it off?
Okay. The registry is where lots of information about your computer is stored on the computer. The remote registry service allows the remote user to remotely query your registry. The useful information it contains is stuff about your password policy, your usernames, etc., etc. And it's something that you don't need unless you're in a specific situation in an office environment. Windows XP Home has it turned off by default, but Windows XP Professional doesn't.
So Windows XP has basically a button flicked somewhere, a switch flicked somewhere that says allow remote access to my machine. And it's switched on. That facility's switched on.
It's switched on by default in Windows XP Professional, but not Windows XP Home. Yeah.
So you would advise users to go in and switch that off.
Yep. And if you search on the internet for remote registry switch off, there's plenty of guides out there, I'm sure.
Just also tell me about the name of the admin user. I thought that was quite interesting when you told me that on the phone.
Yeah, if people are trying to hack a Windows machine, they're after the administrator account, as I was. That's the top dog on the machine. Gives you full control of the local machine. One simple technique you can use is just to go into your users and passwords and control panel and rename the administrator. Call it, you know, whatever your name is or whatever you like.
So hackers won't know what.
Yeah, so they'll keep trying administrator with lots of different passwords, not knowing the username's wrong, so we'll never get there.
Gary, it's been really fascinating. Thanks for your time.
No, thank you.